Hello, family. Let's get that audio check out of the way really fast. We got a great guest today. He's waiting on the side right now. Had an awesome video yesterday. Thank you for your participation in the call out. Sound is good. Excellent. Got many people now asking for another video of a different vintage, and I'm cool with that. I think it's a really good idea to now do a community-wide, just like I did with the other video, do a community-wide chat to now look at the opposite of what we looked at yesterday. What channels, what hosts have we invested our trust in who have basically carried the torch? The people that we should be listening to, not just me. There's other people who are telling you the truth as they've come to believe it. So yeah, let's find out who they are. I think I'm going to do that too. I'm going to introduce that on Archaics TV real soon. So sound is fabulous, awesome. So I'm not going to keep him waiting in the shadows, guys. You guys know Paul Cook. Paul Cook's got some really interesting videos. He's boots on the ground at a lot of the places that I have studied. He's been to places and he's showcased places on his channel that I've never even heard of. A recent video of his was showing drone footage of what looked like a star fort construction, and it was pretty enigmatic why that place was even built. I found it very compelling. So a man who needs no introduction. You guys know him. This is Paul Cook.
Easy Tigers.
How you doing, Paul?
How you doing, mate? Thank you for having me on, Jason. And I just want to say thank you to the people in the chat. I was just reading the comments, and the love is unbelievable. So thank you so much, guys. Yeah,
it's a great community, man. People can come here. People can come here and be who they are, as opposed to how society wants us to be. This is where we do it, man. So I got to drink my coffee to that one. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
So what part of the UK are you in?
Well, I'm from Southend in Essex. But I'm still in Essex, but not there no more. I'm in Grays at the minute. So I'm about 1 mile from London.
Okay. All right.
Probably why I've got that London accent. It sounds quite strong. But I'm not actually from London. I'm from Essex, which is just down the road. Okay.
Well, I have, Danny of the Unfuckers group of Removing the Shackles. You know, she's in England. And so, and you already know that one of my best buds is Martin Leakey, and he's in and out of Wales. He can't figure out if he wants to stay in Wales or Texas. He just doesn't know. So it's
well, I can't see that being a hard choice. I really can't. I mean, Wales looks beautiful, but Texas is something else, eh? Texas is something else.
Yeah, Texas is awesome. Texas is awesome. So yeah, Texas is a lot in the news right now, but you got to take that with a grain of salt. There's a whole lot more happening, and what's happening isn't really happening at the border at all. It's a bunch of BS. It's a bunch of BS news items they're putting out there. But we got boots on the ground right here in Texas, man. There's just nothing going on down there at all. So
really,
yeah, it's really crazy, man. It's really crazy putting the two pieces of information together, that alternative news is promoting this massive controversy at the border, and yet boots on the ground is filming crickets. There's nothing going on down there. So yeah, I may do a video on Archaics TV about what I'm finding out about it. It's kind of crazy, but then again, considering the past 4 years and everything that's appeared in the news, it's just not crazy. It's everything's a show, everything's a lie, and there's very, very few people getting out there trying to figure out the truth anymore. They're just picking up the narrative and running with it.
Yep, that's it. That's the easiest thing to do, though, isn't it?
Yep, yes, it is. So yeah, I've got several friends from the UK. A buddy of mine, I got a buddy of mine right here in Texas. He used to be a police officer in the UK and military. He moved to Texas with his family. Joined the United States military. Now he's in retirement, but he's from Manchester. And yeah, every time Manchester United plays, I got to hear it. But yeah, he's all about that football.
Yeah, I used to be a Manchester United fan myself.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, the chat's going off. I normally don't start videos till we got about 1,000 people, but we can go ahead and start. Oh yeah, Elizabeth Blanchard, Martin's coming back. He'll be in Texas real soon. We're doing a meetup right here in Texas and Houston in the same building. We did meetups in the past in Houston. This will be our third time in Houston. It's a round table. Yeah, we don't do a presentation in front of you guys. We involve everybody. Get a big old circle together. Everybody who joins us, if we got to double up the chairs for 2 circles, put a raffle machine in the middle, and we give out free bags. Last time we gave out books from the 1800s with a whole bunch of archaics and flat Earth British merchandise. Yeah, we had a blast. We're going to do it again on March 30th in Houston. And then right after that, we're going to drag Martin to Florida. We're going to go do a big meetup in Florida. It's going on. Yeah, this is 2024. It's too late to be polite. I'm doing it. I'm not holding back, man. It's, you know what? We have to be more aggressive in this new environment where we're not just we're not just competing with other humans anymore. It used to be bad that there was so much competition in the social media. Content creators had to compete with each other, but also had to compete with the budgets of Fortune 500 companies that were funding different content creators, and they had all the access to the good equipment, the good dialogue, script writers. They had all the good CGI stuff. So, but that's no longer the case. Now we're in competition with these thousands of new AI channels that maybe YouTube themselves might be doing it themselves. They may have said, you know what, we can cut the creator all the way out and just release AI channels, because this is what's going on. These AI channels are popping up everywhere, and there are a lot of competition because they're drawing away people, and people buy into it. After a while, it's pretty obvious. But what AI channels can never do what you do. So you're pretty secure as long as you keep producing content, you're going to grow. But an AI channel can never actually send boots out on the ground to go out and do. You've been to Egypt, you've been to Malta, you've been all over the UK doing stuff. I understand your budget is not unlimited. I mean, you've said that in your videos that all this stuff costs money, and I know it does because I don't travel like you do. I just travel in Texas, in the United States, and that's nowhere near as expensive as what you've been doing. So I get it. I get it 100%. And these AI channels will never be able to compete against somebody who's actually there taking pictures, boots on the ground. So you do have a leg up on the competition, but it is bad for a lot of people right now with all these fake channels popping up. So let's see. Somebody said Theorizone said, exactly, Jason. YouTube just laid off thousands of people to focus on AI tech moving forward. Wow. Well, I do know this. They're not just investing in AI. They're also investing in different unique creators. I know this from firsthand experience, because I'm about to meet with some of them, and this was their idea, not mine. So I'll let you guys know where this is going, but I'm about to talk to some people pretty high up in YouTube that are interested in my channel. So they're not just interested in promoting the AI, but from a business perspective, I know exactly what they're doing. They're pushing more AI out because they can save all the money and not pay content creators. I get it. But there's still people like me, and there's people like Paul Cook. They're not going to be able to push out because the content is unique, and they're not able to replicate that with AI. So, but yeah, you're absolutely right. I didn't know they just let go of thousands of people, but that sure makes sense. They sure freed their budget up if that's the case. So, Paul, when you first started doing what you were doing, you're really just exploring the UK, weren't you? Before you really set out, before I saw any videos where you went to Malta, which I want to talk about because Malta has some amazing anomalies, and it also has some hidden history from 1902. A lot of people don't know about Malta and what was found and discovered there, and then covered up by Jesuits who came in there. And even the guy who discovered that, they killed him. They took his notes and everything. But we'll talk about Malta in a minute. But in the UK, what is your overall impression? Since the UK is absolutely rich in archaeological sites, and that many of these archaeological sites, they're not totally buried like other civilizations like Sumer, Akkad, Elam, Urartu, the Hurrians, Rashamra, all the Amorite dynasty, all that was underground. But in the UK, it seems like these massive megalithic dolmens and all that, they're partially buried. They're not fully buried.
Mhm.
What do you think about everything you've seen in the UK? What does it mean to you? And
Um, well, first of all, it's not what I thought it would be at all. It's completely different to what I was brought up being taught in school. Completely different. The world that I'm discovering in England seems to be some sort of the Flintstone sort of world, where everything is made out of stone. It's, in my opinion, it's man-made stone. But it's definitely not what we've been taught. And you mentioned some of it's not always buried. I don't think we was meant to find this stuff out or work it out, and that's why they left it. There's a lot of land in England that's like, I don't know the right word for it, but it's off limits. A lot of stuff is off limits, you know. So I actually worked it out in Malta, like a blueprint on how to find stuff, because when it was COVID in Malta, I had so much free time. I just started. And I just had enough of the government and all that. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to go and like start just looking for things. And what my brain does, it like stores, it sees patterns. So I started noticing attributes at these sites in Malta. And I thought, hello. When I went back to England, I thought, let me see if I can apply these attributes to places in England and see if I can find some ancient sites. And I couldn't believe it. It was 100%. Every time I started looking at these places, looking for limestone or sandstone with water supplies close, I'd look on the LiDAR, and then you'd start seeing like mad formations within the terrain. Some of it, what they like to do is there'll be a stone complex, and they smear mud up half the side of it. So when you look at it, it looks like a cliff face and then a hill. And this is a very common thing that you see there. But inside these places, you'll have, it will be a complex. It will have storage. It will have cooking facilities. It will have door hinges, like for doors, like stone doors, swinging. I found swinging stone doors underground in Kent, you know, and that's just like, a lot of people say that's a folly, but I don't understand why that would be a folly there, and why it would be where it's situated, you know.
okay, there are two places in the ancient world that I know for a fact. I did a video about one of them, where they found unusual, gigantic megalithic doors where the jambs and the lintel and the door itself was all hewn out of the same stone, and they don't know how they did it because stone doesn't yield. So how did you fit the jambs to make the door swivel? How'd you get it in there?
Yeah.
But it's all one stone, and it's all one piece, and they don't know how they did it. Then the two places are in South America. In some of those cities like Cuzco, Tiahuanaco, they found these same doors, and they're identical to the doors that have been found in Syria and a place called Bashan.
Yeah, I know this. I've studied this. I know where you're
Yeah,
about.
I did about 2.5 years ago. I did a video on giants, and the whole video was about the cities of Argob and Bashan, and how L. Porter, and our archaeologist named Porter, went through there and documented these strange doors. And he said the only way that anybody could have used these cities with these steps and these door jambs is if these humans were at least 9 foot tall, because no smaller people could have ever used this architecture. And his book was real unpopular in the 1880s. It kind of disappeared. But he was showing that the book of Numbers, which talks about the giant cities of Argob and Bashan that the Israelites had to fight, was actually historical. And his name is J.L. Porter, and he wrote a book called The Giant Cities of Bashan. It's fantastic. You can probably get a free PDF online somewhere. I believe that's where I got it. But this is where I just wanted to say that what you're describing you found in Kent has been found in South America among the Heliolithic architecture, giant megalithic architecture, cyclopean stones, walls, and also in northern Syria in Bashan. Those are the only two other places that I know where these doors are described.
There's also one in Malta as well, inside one of the complexes in Malta. But that
Oh,
is,
wow.
yeah. So the one in England and the one in Malta are the same size, and they're the size of human size. But the one in Egypt was probably around 30 foot high.
Wow.
Even the hinges were like, they're about 1 foot by 1.5 foot. And the interesting thing there was they tried to cover it up, and I didn't notice this till I was looking at the footage after. But every time I walked through the door, one of these massive doors in a temple, let's say Dendera Temple, for instance, On the right-hand side, they'd have a flower pot covering the bottom hinge, and at the top, it would just be left exposed because not a lot of people look up. But this was a common feature. Every time I walked through the door, and I've made a video on it, the hinge, the bottom hinge was hidden with flower pots. And I just, it's a bit bizarre, you know, that you'd want to.
Amazing. It's amazing because the same thing happened to the true entrance to the Great Pyramid. I've shown on my own channel that the original entrance to the Great Pyramid isn't the one that everybody has become familiar with. That little square that goes down the descending passage isn't. You know when you look at the Great Pyramid now, it's got those big giant megalithic angular blocks like they look like a portal.
Yes,
that's the original entrance, and it's perfectly even all the way through the pyramid to the floor of the Queen's chamber. It's all one level. That's the original entrance. For some reason, Egyptologists have blocked that off. They don't know. But what's fascinating about it is the engineer David Davidson in the 1920s studied the single block that blocked that entrance. That block is now missing, but he drew it in the 1920s. That block was a 20-ton angular triangular slab on a pivot that was all one stone, and an 80-pound human could have just used one hand to push it from the inside and it would open. But a 2-ton truck couldn't pull that block open from the outside.
Mental, mate. That's crazy, isn't
it? The engineering of our predecessors is equal to our own today, at least.
So you know, you just mentioned that entrance. I noticed this. Like when I went to Egypt, I wasn't very educated in Egypt because I was focusing on Malta in England. Going to Egypt was literally like a scram to get out of a situation. But when I was there, I noticed this entrance that you said, it was on quite a few of the pyramids. Did you know about this? It's on all of the pyramids. There was the main pyramids. When I was going through on this like horse and cart thing, I could see like on the back of the pyramids was these massive entrances. And I thought, when I've seen this on TV, no one's ever shown me this before. I've never seen this. Right. I've only seen it on one pyramid. But it was on all of the pyramids.
Yeah, I haven't been there, so I'm real. I know some people criticize me for this, but my pyramid research sticks to books from like the 1960s and 50s and back, because those engineers and those archaeologists, they were recording the facts. They were measuring everything to a thousandth of an inch. Now, books on the pyramids written in the 70s, 80s, 90s, the research is shoddy. It is full of a bunch of anachronisms and misinformation. It's like, you know what, people today don't have the acuity that our predecessors did. 100 years ago, the cognition of the average human was far higher than today. Just far higher than today.
So what's your opinion, Jason, on the actual Giza Plateau then?
I believe it was construction started in 2905 BC. It lasted 90 years, which is 1080 months. The ancient Egyptians had a grasp of this history, and they recorded a bunch of historical facts in what are called the coffin texts. In these coffin texts, you'll find a spell text 1080, which refers to a giant structure that was let down from the sky and placed in the desert. This is spell 1080 of the coffin text. All throughout ancient Egypt, in what is now called the Book of the Dead, which in ancient Egypt it was never called that, but we call it that now. All these inscriptions had these clues about the hidden chambers of Thoth, about the secret numbers hidden in the artifact of Thoth. The ancient Egyptians had a good grasp that Giza was separate, and this is why they didn't mess with it. This is why almost during half of Egyptian pharaonic history, almost 2,700 years, the Egyptians left that place alone until Thutmose IV decided to excavate certain areas, and he started at the Sphinx. In the 14th century BC, Pharaoh Thutmose IV excavated it, and he found an ancient stele. You're familiar with the Dream Stela and the Restoration Stela. Yep. When this is the 14th century BC, when a pharaoh dug out the Sphinx, found the original steel between the paws, had it translated, and found out that this was the gate of Rostal, and that Giza was called the Gate of Rostal, meaning this is your entrance to the kingdom of Seeker, which the ancient Egyptians knew was a massive underground series of labyrinths that when you go in, you don't come out. So this was a gate to the other world, and the only way to get through it was to uh, uh, know the knowledge of Anubis, which was given through the messenger god Thoth, who knew the plans with numbers. So they understood these concepts, but the problem is the Egyptians were a post-cataclysm culture, meaning they were a primitive people trying to put back together a very technologically advanced picture, and they couldn't do it because they didn't have that technology anymore. They were centuries after an infrastructure had collapsed, and they were trying to piece all this together, and they didn't do a very good job, but the pieces are all there for all of us to see in the Egyptian Book of the Dead, in the Egyptian Book of Two Ways, in the coffin text, in the ossuaries, in the wall text, in the pyramid text. It's all there. This is what my book is. My very first published book, The Lost Scriptures of Giza. That's what I'm talking about. The Lost Scriptures of Giza is all the Egyptian knowledge that's all over the place, where they were trying to piece this history back together, and they never quite did it. But yeah, that's my take, is that a technologically advanced civilization built this, and it was a power station, and it drew its power somehow from the sky. But at that time, the sky was very different than today. It's not the sky that we know today. Their sky, the moon filled a fourth of the heavens, and the rest of it was very bright stars that they felt like they could touch if they just climbed a hill that was tall enough. They never saw the sun, because in the daytime, when the sun passed over the sky, it clouded up the mesosphere. So during the daytime, there was a vapor canopy. At nighttime, that vapor canopy condensed into a watery lens that magnified the heavens. This is the world that the Great Pyramid was built in. The reason we can't figure out the Great Pyramid today is because that sky is gone, and we're not really going to understand the science of the Great Pyramid and the engineering and what its true function is and how it works until that vapor canopy returns.
That's mental, mate. So we got about another. What is it? The next one's in 12 years, isn't it?
Man, listen. All it takes is a few volcanoes, and that vapor canopy can be back real fast. And then within a decade of the return of the vapor canopy in our lifetimes, within a decade, you're going to see animals and insects, reptiles and amphibians that are huge. And it's also going to bring changes in the human body. It's going to be a lot harder to die. If you kill somebody, it's because you worked to do it, because the human body under a vapor canopy heals itself extremely rapidly. And in addition to that, the normal human body that is not affected by anything that's contaminated it under vapor canopy conditions, the peptides are going to be able to replicate anything the human body needs to heal it. So I don't want to get into any pharmaceutical stuff in this video and all, but I have a real good idea of what the whole 2020 deal was about, because they know what's coming and they want to stop people on the surface world from being truly healthy. And it's like a preliminary attack, but we can't go into that. This is Archaics TV type stuff. Can't talk about this here. But the vapor canopy is known by the elite. It's not ancient. We've had one recently. The very fact that we've got maps, you've seen some of these on you've showed them on your channel. The very fact that we've got maps that show original Antarctica and Iceland and Greenland with no snow and no ice, and shows the rivers and the mountains. The very fact that the U.S. military has even studied these maps and said that their subsurface interface radar readings from drones confirm the accuracy of these maps. And yet today there's 2 miles of ice on top of these land masses. But the very fact that we have 14th, 15th, and 16th century maps that are detail specific and accurate of ice-free land masses in the north and in the south is proof that a vapor canopy was very recent. It just recently collapsed. That's what puts the ice there. It's not snow, because there's no humidity in the Arctic and the Antarctic. Most people don't realize there's no humidity. This is why it doesn't snow. So the whole Ice Age theory is thrown out. Vapor canopy throws all the Ice Age theory out. And vapor canopy, the vapor canopy period is also what explains all the anomalies that you've been finding. All this megalithic architecture, these super gigantic blocks. Listen, under a vapor canopy, the atmospheric pressure is very different. Humans are way stronger than we are right now. We're super weak. Under a vapor canopy with the increased atmospheric pressure, the ambient radiation from volcanoes that increases HGH, human growth hormone. One of the greatest things under the vapor canopy, though, is the ability you and I can be working side by side, and all we have to do is stand there and just breathe deeply for about 30 seconds, oxygenate, because the oxygen content in the air is so rich. It's not like today. Once we've oxygenated, there's no weight we can't lift together. All it takes is more and more people. We can't lift it. Okay, bring some more guys over here. We all breathe together, and then we lift. Under a vapor canopy, the human body is working at its optimum. Today, we've been weakened.
Yeah, wow, mate. That's impressive, mate. It's really impressive how you just roll that off, Jason. It really is. It's impressive,
Yeah,
mate.
well, it's none of these things. I mean, I'm fascinated by like Martin Leakey, what things he shows. It just blows my mind on the star force and the electrical diodes and things that are on buildings I never noticed before. And when I see guys like you climbing over these megaliths in Malta, and you can literally see the size of these blocks compared to you. You're average size guy. You're not a midget. You know what I mean? So to see the size of these blocks and all that, it's like, wow. It just blows my mind that other people have not hundreds of years ago already come up with this and realized, okay, well, apparently in order to build all this, humans must have been fundamentally different than we are today. There's no other explanation, because this isn't an anomaly. What you found in the UK is not different than South America civilization, Tiwanaku. It's no different than what's been found in Ecuador. Hundreds of sites that have not even been excavated yet. They've only been detected by radar. I said, it's no different than what you found in ancient Egypt. When you were in Egypt, I watched your videos. Martin Leakey and I sat in San Diego and watched one of your videos when you were old. Matter of fact, when we were in San Diego, I think we were emailing you at that time or talking to you in the comment section. But yeah, man, it's those things interest me, man. But in the UK, what is the strangest thing, the actual place you visited in the UK, that completely defies what we're taught about the history of England in that area?
I would say it's a toss between a couple of places. It's a toss between Liverpool. Actually, it's a toss between Liverpool, Nottingham, and the West Midlands, because what they're actually hiding there is like major complexes. It's not like a house knocked up out of material. It is a complex that goes on for miles. And the startling thing about that is the whole city has been built directly on top of it. And what they've done is they broke up this, like Nottingham, let's take Nottingham, for instance. They broke up Nottingham into individual tourist attractions. So you can go underground, and they make out that all of these tourist attractions are not connected and that they're just caves that you can access from people's houses. But what it is, it's the tip of the complex. And if you go to, they normally put like props in there as well. So they put a castle on top of it, and the castle was built up in the 1900s, and they'll use that, and people will use that as the focal point of history and go and look at that and not realize what they're actually standing on or looking at or what's underneath them. And when you go into some of these, like especially Nottingham, it wasn't originally designed to be underground. Like the complex, you can tell that because it's I don't know. It just feels like it was not meant to be underground, But now it's been buried. It's just been buried, and it's just been cornered off, and it's just broken up into individual tourist attractions. And it's the same actually with Scotland, but I haven't had a chance to get up there yet. And even though I talk about these places, I guarantee you there's a heck of a lot more. But these are the ones that I've just identified so far. But going back to your question, it's the fact that there's sheer complexes that have been buried and hidden. That's the most startling thing about it. It's not like just one little thing and then, let's not worry about that. It's a humongous complex. And again, it seems, in my opinion, to be man-made stone. That's the other biggest thing about all of this. It's not stone that's been quarried into blocks and then put into place. It's stone that's been broken down and put together with a selection of chemicals that create a certain bonding, that allows these structures to still be standing now. Not like concrete that lasts, 70 to 100 years, This stuff is still, in my opinion, it's flipping old. And when you go and look at them, it will say that the stone is so weak, but then they're building cities directly on top of it. There's one building in Nottingham called the student accommodation. I think it's got like 1,000 pods in there, and pods are where the people sleep inside of them. It's literally for accommodation for the students, but it's built directly on top of the complex. If you stand back down the road, you can see all the entrances going in, and you can see like a 10-story building built directly on top of it. And then if you go onto a tourist attraction under there, they'll tell you that you can actually access the student accommodation through certain tunnels going up into like cupboards. So they're just built directly on top. And another reason they've done that is you'll see when you go there is because they use these tunnels for the services. So what they'll do is they'll put pipes and cables through there, run them through all of the complex and poke them up to places around the town where they need to go. So that's another reason why I think they've kept it. And that's what they did in Malta as well. That's one of the main things they did in Malta. So they keep the complex, they use the tunnels to run pipes, cables and whatever, and then feed it upstairs to where they're meant to be going.
Yeah, but what you're saying is that those tunnel systems are far more ancient than the structures built on top of them.
Yeah, 100%, 100%.
Okay, so it's interesting that synthetic stone this was Christopher Dunn who wrote the the Giza power plant. Are you familiar with? He's an archaeologist and he's an engineer. But in the 1990s, he came out with a book called Giza Power Plant, and he shows 3D schematics of the interior of the Great Pyramid. And he shows all this stuff, and in his book, he also theorizes that the Great Pyramid, the actual blocks, the limestone was quarried, especially the Tura limestone. It was quarried, and then it was brought to the site and put in machines that liquefied it and added stuff like beryl and quartzite, and then to make it harder and to give it more of a radio frequency utility. So yeah. Because the Great Pyramid, it is unusual limestone, and some people have detected that it's geopolymer all. So this synthetic stone deal is also a subject matter of David Hatcher Childress addresses this in his books on South America, on the Lost Cities series. And he shows a Mayan frieze. It blew my mind, but he shows a Mayan frieze in one of his books that has two bearded guys wearing backpacks with tubes coming from the backpacks, holding some type of tool, and they're literally spraying stone. Wow. It's like synthetic. This is like a 600-700 year old or maybe 1,000-year-old Mayan art where it shows these, and it's crazy. Ever since I saw that, I have been promoting. I saw this like 15 years ago. Ever since I saw that in his book, in the Lost City series, I have been promoting the fact that we've been technologically advanced multiple times. The synthetic stone is real. It's the only way to explain some of the anomalies in the Cyclopean masonry in South America. The upside down staircases and just weird anomalies that are found. It's like somebody was practicing with the technology before they went out and actually built a city.
Yeah, that's right, and it's that's like you said. It's the only way you can explain certain things as well, and that's why I actually went about 2 years ago. I went on a journey, Jason, to learn about artificial stone, and I started making my own stones as well. I've got some here. I know I've showed people before, but I had some. This is granite. This is artificial. Well, this is granite, and what I've done was I broke it up, and then I remolded it into this shape. And it is so strong. There's two types. So I've got the core blockwork, which I did, which is like the rough and ready. And this is the sort of stone that we're left with. When you go to places like Egypt or you look at all the ancient sites, we only see the core blockwork. And a lot of
Right.
this gets, because it's crude, it's rough, it's ready, it's been damaged, you know. So they get away of calling that natural or something. But then you've got the other one here, which is this one, which I made it a bit more liquidy when before this one's set. I don't know if you can see it properly. There's a lot of calcium coming out of it. But this is the same stone, but just slightly different because I made one more liquidy than the other. So this one's more grains. This is the one that would be the core block work. And this is the one that would be like a statue grade sort of material, you know?
Right. It's got finer particles.
Yes. And then when like bits of it, because I've been stressing these out to see how good they are. And when bits do come off, you can see the aggregates underneath. I don't know if you can about see it on here, but
yeah. So we didn't make this connection, but it needs to be said here, since J.L. Porter in the 1880s, when he put out his book, The Giant Cities of Bashan, and David Hatcher Childress noticed the same doors in Syria, giant megalithic doors where the lintel and the jambs were all one stone. That can only be done too by what you're describing.
Exactly.
Synthetic stone. They shaped the stone in place where it was. They didn't move it. They didn't quarry it. They quarried the material. Then they fed the material and liquefied it in some way. They liquefied this material and then fed it through some type of machine where it's sprayed on, and they shaped it as they needed it. It would have been very easy to do like that. It's like spray. It's like a foam that sprays, and as soon as it has contact with air, it turns into like a silly putty.
Yes.
And then the silly putty has a few hours before it turns into solid rock. And so this is the only way to explain some of the architectural anomalies that we have found from the ancient world, because there's no way we can replicate it today as far as quarrying rock and building. I mean, even in Greece, around the area of Olympia, the type of quarrying they were doing wasn't with hammers and chisels. We don't know how they were doing it, but it's described as sonic fracture quarrying, where whole 50 and 60 foot areas are sheared off like a laser and just dropped. And we don't know how the hell they did that.
Yeah, that's just
but you can still see pictures of it. There's people that have gone out to those quarries and photographed that and say, hey, we can't do that today. What the hell were they doing? How the hell? So, yeah, man, it's really interesting for you to show those plugs right there, because it makes more sense that a lot of these things that we see in the ancient world were shaped. They weren't quarried and cut that way.
And the thing is, people that are against that will say, "Oh, well, yeah, but we know where you get the stone from. They've identified that you can get it's been. They've identified it from blah 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 quarry." But the thing is, the stone has to come from somewhere. You know, you have to go and get the stone from somewhere. You don't.
They got to quarry it somewhere, no doubt.
So you have to you quarry the stone and then you bring it to where you need to make it, and then you can remold it. The way I did it was I literally broke them down into dust and then remolded it with chemicals. Sodium silicate, calcium hydroxide, sodium hydroxide. What else was there? And that was it for the granite. But another interesting thing that I did come across, Jason, was when I was doing research on it, because I made a few different geopolymers. This one, I made one myself, and it turns out there's a pharaoh called Imhotep, and he actually was meant to be, this is his recipe for granite. And it was one ingredient away from...
I read that Papyrus translation. You're talking Imhotep. Imhotep was the Grand Vizier of Egypt. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it was one ingredient away from this, and I couldn't believe it. It made my neck hairs go up when I was reading it. I was like, oh my gosh. Yeah,
wow.
that was a madness.
Yeah, it seems like one of the main ingredients to I think Brian Forrester has this in one of his books. One of the things that they're finding is semi-precious stones ground into powder makes anything stronger and harder.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a chemical reaction that allows things to happen, like a crystalline molecular structure. See, with these are getting harder over time because they're crystallizing, and that's what it is. It's a chemical reaction that allows that to happen, and that's what makes it superior. You don't get that chemical reaction inside concrete, you know, and that's why it doesn't last that long.
Wow.
But with these, it does. It does with these, and by the way, like, I'm not an expert at this. I'm just someone that just picked this up as a hobby to try and learn it, you know. So if I can do it and I've got this far so far, then imagine like what people are doing when they had the the knowledge to do stuff, and they had the means and the materials around them. Like again, this took me ages to get this to make this, Jason, because I had to source the materials, I had to source the chemicals, you know, and none of that stuff's cheap.
Yeah, right. Yeah, well, I mean, I don't think the ancients were going by a budget, but yeah, they could have done it. Have you ever examined or ever done any research into like Durrington walls?
No.
Have you ever heard of it?
No, I'm going to write it down now though, so I can have a look. Do you know how to spell it?
Yeah, Durrington. I think it's Durrington. Durrington walls. This is in the UK as well.
Oh, hang on. Yeah, go on.
It's called Durrington walls. It's mentioned by David Hatcher Childress in his books as megalithic anomaly, unknown history, like so many other places.
Is it up near Hadrian's Wall?
I don't know, but I think it was mentioned in the same section of the book as Hadrian's Wall. But Hadrian's Walls is pretty much known to have been built by the Romans and abandoned, right?
Mm-hmm.
They abandoned it when they realized those crazy bastards with blue skin and fire, carrying fire on the end of their torches, you know, scared the Picts, coming tattooed. What would you do if you had thousands of dudes that looked like skinny Smurfs with a bunch of tattoos and blue skin, and all their torches are on fire and their hair's all wild, and they're singing as they're about to fight you? Man, I'm going to go. I'm not fighting normal people. I'm about to leave.
Work, mate. I'm gone. I'm gone, mate. I ain't hanging around. See you later.
Yeah, man. I'm leaving.
Ta-da, guys. Not today.
Man. Yeah, I don't know what you guys are on, but I'm not even going to hang around. Yeah.
I'm just going to Google this place because I want to see what this is about. Durrington. Just in case.
Durrington. Yeah, go ahead, man. Durrington walls.
Oh, interesting. Neolithic shafts. Wow. Might be
a place you need to go check out.
Yeah, that's why I had to. It's something was resonating with me then. I was like, I've got to check this out.
I'll tell you why. Let me explain to you what one of the values of like the Archaics Library, my old books. It's YouTube is rife with people that just make up shit. And one of the things like Silbury Hill, I literally listened to this guy explain on YouTube in one of his videos that he knows for a fact Silbury Hill's a psyop and it was just recently built and it was put there. And I'm like, are you nuts? I said, we have actual church records lamenting all the stuff they lost to the Vikings when the Vikings raided, and church officials went and hid their stuff in Silbury Hill, thinking that the Vikings would respect that. You know what I mean? The Vikings went right into Silbury Hill and took all these treasures and took all this stuff, and the church was offended by that. But what I'm saying is if we have 900-year-old records that tell us today in the Anglo-Saxon Chronicles, you know, in the Frankish Annals, we have all these church records that tell us that Silbury Hill was there 900 years ago and it was already ancient. How can you get on YouTube and tell everybody it's a psyop and it's modern?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Absolute bonkers.
Yeah, man, it's just crazy, dude. It's so crazy.
I think some people are there just to cause a division, you know, and cause problems and ruffle feathers. That's what I've learned. That's why I've kept my nose out of everything for the last year.
It's hard to do. It's hard to do, man. Because when I see idiocy, I automatically want to correct it, whether they want to be corrected or not. Yeah, man. Crazy.
So what you was mentioning Malta, Jason, you said there was you talking about the star fort in Malta, and you were saying that you couldn't believe the sheer size of it.
Yeah, well, what is it? What is the temple called? Gigantia? Gigantia? Yeah. Okay. That was built the same period, but what's really interesting to me is the hypogeum. You've been there?
No.
Okay.
No. I'll tell you why I haven't been there, and it's not because of anything bad. I feel like the stuff that I was coming across that's not meant to be there was far more significant than the hypogeum. And what I mean by that is like there's a couple of spots in Malta. Not that the hypogeum is insignificant, by the way. I'm not saying that at all. It's just I'm saying that I was focusing on things that I believe were bigger. And what I mean by that is there's one structure underneath the letter that's almost 1 kilometre long, 9 stories high,
Wow.
riddled with apartments, storage. There's meant to be 1,000 cisterns inside of there. And this is not meant to exist, by the way. This is meant to be inside geology, but it's actually a complex that's been buried or hidden. And that is why I never focused on going to the Hypogeum, because I found it more pleasurable for me and my own little mission to go on my own accord through these complexes and see what's going on. So that's what I was doing.
Well, let me tell you about Malta. Let me tell you about what you missed in Malta. And you'd have only known this if you'd gone into the specialist literature and the archaeological monographs, but Malta was subject to a tidal surge, a tidal wave that was traveling about 300 miles an hour coming from the Strait of Gibraltar, a tsunami that literally wiped out 200 and something stone cities all within 1 day's period. This 200, we're talking about something that was about 400 feet high and moving hundreds of miles an hour. The only warning anybody got was looking at the birds in the distance, trying to get higher and higher in the sky because the entire horizon rose. So the Strait of Gibraltar used to be a land bridge between Africa and in Europe. And what our geologists and our uniformitarians are trying to tell us is that it was tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of years ago when that broke and created the Mediterranean, which used to be nothing but a deep area of beautiful Garden of Eden-like valleys with clear water lakes, freshwater lakes. However, there's been over 200 stone cities found underneath the Mediterranean now. This didn't happen 10,000 years ago. It happened within living tradition, living memory. So what we have with Malta and Sardinia are 70, 80, and 100-ton blocks that were moved several miles off the island from the blast of the tsunami, and they have been found and photographed by scuba divers just laying on the bottom of the Mediterranean, all on the west side of all of them are on the east side of Malta and Sardinia, showing the tsunami, how it moved. Yeah, showing how it moved. David Hatcher Childress does a real good job explaining all this, how in just 1 day, this was all wiped out. The Mediterranean was created in a day. Now, the reason I'm mentioning this, because it has everything to do with the Great Pyramid.
Yeah.
Most people don't know that the first 21 courses of the Great Pyramid, it has been conclusively proven that they were underwater for a long period of time. Not the whole Great Pyramid, just 21 levels of the Great Pyramid. And that the Egyptian Nile Delta, called the Nine Bows, it was created in living memory. There are traditions about when it was made, because it's not ancient. This whole Mediterranean filled up and flooded. The Sphinx was underwater for 340 years. It took an earthquake in 1899 BC to raise the North African shelf. And when that happened, that's what Diodorus Siculus and Strabo and other ancient geographers, they all say the Triton Sea drained out. But people don't make the connections because they don't read these old materials. They're talking about a geographical area of North Africa called the Triton Sea that drained out from an earthquake. But in modern maps, you don't see Triton Sea. What do you see? You see Sahara Desert. The modern maps don't tell you what the ancient geographers called these areas. So that was all part of this flooded out Mediterranean. And what's interesting about Malta is the traditions of the Deucalion flood and the flood of Ogyges. We find the truth here, that there were cities. There was a whole area here that was completely beautiful, full of civilizations and farming, ranches, stone cities, and it was all wiped out at the exact same time. And what we find on Malta are not the remains of the cities. What we find on Malta are the remains of the temples, which were built on the highest high ground. And what's crazy about the Hypogeum, or however you say, Hypogeum or Hypogeum, In 1901 and 1902, this guy was excavating and he had it all dug out and he found hundreds of human skeletons and they all had long skulls. They were humans, but they had epithelial cartilage built up all over their bones. And he misidentified them as Neanderthals, but they weren't. They were normal humans, and many other researchers have come behind him now and verified that epithelial cartilage built up on bones isn't Neanderthalic. It's evidence that that human lived for a very long period of time under dense atmospheric pressure with a lot of oxygen. These were vapor canopy humans, and because they lived for a long time, their skulls got longer. And they lived under a different environment, but he found hundreds of them and they were all crammed in there like they were trying to escape something when all of a sudden it was just flash flooded with mud. Mud came in there, watery mud came in there, and that became their tomb. He found tablets, he found weaponry, artifacts, and hundreds of people who had run in there for safety. And since 1901 and 1902, it's all been dug out, and you got that acoustic chamber where one person can whisper and hundreds of people can listen. In that acoustic in the hypogeum, it's amazing. But he worked for the Roman Catholic Church. He worked for the Vatican, but he was real low on the totem pole. He submitted his reports, and he had a whole bunch of notes from all his excavations of Malta. And the Vatican sent Jesuits out there. That dude completely disappeared, and all his research notes were confiscated. His writings were taken, and the last person to see that guy alive saw him with one of the Jesuit priests that were dispatched to go talk to him. Then they shut that site down for years, and then when they opened it back up, for all those skeletons and artifacts were gone.
And all the thousands are gone as well. And it's there's meant to be a couple of other sites around Malta that have found these elongated skulls as well. But again, it's just been hidden. It's just been hidden and taken out of history. But I met a Maltese guy, and he was actually telling me about when they found the hypogeum, and they said they closed it off and they sent it. It just matched what you were saying, how they sent a guy down. He was connected to the Vatican. And apparently this guy actually knew everything about it. So they sent him in there with to document it and bits like that. And he's the one that went missing. So it's funny that some guy from Malta told me the same story that you just told me. That's very interesting.
Yeah, I read it from an old book that was talking about the whole thing, about Malta and all that, and about the distribution of megaliths are proof of the tsunami that wiped out that civilization. The reason they're proof is how else are you going to take 100-ton blocks and move them miles, and they're all clustered together on one side of the island. And archaeologists can even find the different areas on the island where they came from. The same thing with Sardinia. So, the tsunami happened in the year 2239 BC. It's called the Great Flood. It's the day the sky fell. It was the absolute collapse of the vapor canopy. There was flooding all over the world, but the whole world didn't flood. The story of the Great Flood actually derived from the survivors who watched all their kin in over 200 cities and thousands of farms and ranches in this massive series of valleys that we know as the Mediterranean Sea today. That sea wasn't there. In 2239 BC, the Straits of Gibraltar broke, and it flooded this whole area out. It went right through the Dardanelles, broke through the Dardanelles, and created the Black Sea at the exact same time. There's been human habitations and architecture found in the bottom of the Black Sea as well. But
I was just about to say to you, if you go off the coast of Malta, there's actually like temples and parts of complexes out in the water if you go off the coast. And there's also what they call cart ruts going off of the cliff into the water. But obviously, if the water was lower, then it makes sense for them to have parts of complexes out in the sea and to have the cart ruts going down into that area.
Yeah, it's amazing. It is amazing. I see covert radio. It's no mystery, man. When you're really interested in what you read, you memorize it. As simple as that. When I was in prison, I took thousands of notes from thousands of books, and I rewrote them, and I put them in order, and I rewrote them, and my memory is by virtue of repetition. It's very different watching a video and trying to learn something. It's very different when you read material and you write it. It becomes a part of you. Reading something isn't enough. You need to read it and then reconvey it, either typing it onto a document or writing it. And once you do that, you can commit it to memory real fast. Excuse me, Paul. Somebody was just commenting about my memory, and I just tell them, man, anybody can do it. It's technique. I'm no more intelligent than the average person. It's just it's a long term in prison, just taking notes on everything that interests me. That's how it happened.
Yeah, no, I just read a comment and it says that I need to speak a bit louder, so I just got myself closer to the camera. Sorry about that, guys. Sorry about that.
Yeah, it's crazy. So it's Malta really interests me for that reason, and I had done a lot of studies on Sardinia and Malta because at one time in the late third millennium BC, it was the exact same megalithic Heliolithic culture, and they're completely. And they had started rebuilding after, because the Mediterranean was wiped out bad. But then with the 1899 BC, there was an earthquake. The ancient Egyptians remembered it because up until that time, the Mediterranean went all the way to Giza. And the pyramids were 20 courses of stone in the water. And this is where the ancient myths and traditions came of the two holy mountains that were in the ocean. And people used to go out there on boats and see them and all that, but they couldn't climb them because at that time, the pyramids weren't like they are today. Back then, they were covered in white limestone that was as smooth as marble. There was no way to climb it. A 51 degree declivity is too much. I mean, an incline is too much. You can't climb that. So no one had ever been able to get to the top. There were just two holy mountains sitting out there in the middle of the water. The third pyramid was barely seen, if it was seen at all. But the Sphinx was gone. And the reason, this is I'm a critic of shock. I'm a critic of Bovell and Hancock because they've totally violated the tenet of Occam's razor by adding so much unbelievable stuff to something that is so easily verifiable. The ancient Egyptians called the Nile Delta area the raised land. And they did it because they said that a god named Ptah, Ptah, appeared and decided that it was time to raise the land back out of the water. When they did, that's where the Great Pyramids and the Sphinx were right there. So this and this is shortly after the appearance of Horus, which is very interesting because we have the Egyptian Aeneid, a long pantheon of gods. And then all of a sudden, a couple thousand years after the pantheon was already well established, they decide to create a new god. They throw a 10th god in there named Horus, the son of the sun, because the sun just appeared. The vapor canopy had collapsed. It all chronologically fits perfectly because Horus appeared in the archaeological record at the exact same time that the Sumerian culture was declining and starting to vanish. And at the very end of Sumerian culture, what do? After thousands of years of having all these gods, they decide they need to create a new god all of a sudden, and they called him Utu. Later, 100 years later, in Akkad, he was being called Utu Shamash, which was the sun. And it was necessary because with the moon losing her power and becoming very small in the sky, vapor canopy is gone. Now the sun travels the sky every day. It's blinding everybody. It's burning everybody's eyes. They don't have the protections of the vapor canopy anymore. They're getting sunburned. Now they got a whole new god in the sky that they have to worship in order to survive.
Oh, it's a flip it, mate. That's a lesson, mate. I'm getting a real lesson from you today, Jason. I'm telling you, proper lesson.
Well, it's this is what my channel's about, Paul.
I'm loving it, mate. I'm loving it. Thank you.
That's how you put it together, man. These old books explain why we're finding all these megalithic sites, Heliolithic sites, which are different. Heliolithic architecture is very different and noticeable from Technolithic. Technolithic is like the laser smooth tolerances we find inside the Great Pyramid and the Great Pyramid's 4 casing blocks. They're like mirror smooth, like the granite on the side of a bank building. South America at Tiwanaku and Pumapunka, that's Technolithic. It is smooth and polished. It was architecture made by machines. The stuff you found in the UK and in Egypt is Heliolithic. This is after the vapor canopy had collapsed, and now these cultures are building megalithic stuff with with the same technology, but it's not working at optimum. It's not the vapor canopy anymore. And then within a couple hundred years, even that technology vanished. And that's why nobody's building those giant megalithic stuff anymore. But
that's crazy, mate. That's crazy. And another thing is the military get their hands on them as well. There's one place in England underneath, it's called Drakelow. I don't know if you've heard of Drakelow. There's a stone complex made out of sandstone, and the military, by the way, the military have been in Liverpool and Nottingham. They spent 2 years underground in Liverpool.
Wow.
In these complexes, what were they doing? Like, what are you doing under there for 2 years? But when you go on tours underground, they actually tell you that they're there. They even set up kitchens, toilets, like they were plotted up underground for 2 years. But going back to the place at Drakelow, underneath it is I think it's 100. I like to look at the elevation of places, and it's about 130 feet above sea level. And this is a common thing with these places. It's between 100 and 150 feet above sea level. They always seem to be about that height. But underneath it, the military are completely taken over, and it's a whole military complex underneath. Complete military complex. I think they do like training under there. It wouldn't surprise me if they shuffle stuff around under there.
Wow.
It's interesting how the military always have these places, though. And then
in the United States, they turned part of the Grand Canyon into a military property. And what's interesting is that in 1909, in the Phoenix Gazette, it's a newspaper article, it was published that these two archaeologists from the Smithsonian had found an underground complex that was full of Egyptian statues and artifacts. They found hieroglyphic text. They found an underground complex that went on for several chambers, whole galleries of rock, and it was all in the Grand Canyon. So this is in 1909, and it spread to other newspapers in 1910, 1911, then it kind of faded out. So in 2014, by 2014, the Smithsonian had already completely said it was bogus story. It's not true. It's never existed. We never sent anybody from the Smithsonian to do that. So all through the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and early thousands, up till 2014, people had believed the Smithsonian that was a hoax and it wasn't true. But nobody can go back and verify because now it's all surrounded by U.S. military compound deals. But what's fascinating is in 2014, this guy comes forward, and he's been in the Smithsonian archives, and he's been going through all their old stuff at the Smithsonian, and he found the original paper documents and photographed them, where those two guys that the Smithsonian said didn't work for them, the Smithsonian had full dossiers on both of them. They were employees. So he came forth and said, look, I don't know if the story is true about what they found because those files don't say anything they found. You know what I mean? All the files were employment records. So if the Smithsonian is willing to lie that these men didn't work for them, and yet their own documents are shown 70 and 80 years later on file that they were employees, then it kind of lends credence to the story.
Yes,
but
right.
You can read all about it because it's been copied by me on my channel and so many other people. David Hatcher Childers actually shows the article in his books, but it's 1909, the Phoenix Gazette, Egyptian ruins found in the Grand Canyon. That's what it is. But yeah, military's taken over a lot of places like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely, mate. And it's I was going to mention something there, but I completely forgot about it. Completely just went. It was about. Give me a second, mate. Give me a second. Oh, that's it. It's these companies that are set up. They're just there to literally take away the evidence and then make out that nothing's happening. So we've got English heritage in England. In Malta, they've got Malta heritage. And you've got the Smithsonian's. So what they do in Malta, literally, if you do any building work and you have to dig down in the ground, you have to hire Malta Heritage to be there in case you come across anything that you're not meant to see. And as soon as you go into somewhere, which is, I'd say about 75% of the time in Malta, if you dig down, you're going to come into something, right? They take the site off you, and they don't give it back to you until they've gone down there and they've plugged it all up and they've scooped out whatever is in there. Some contractors don't even get their land back. You know,
Yeah.
a lot of contractors don't even mention that they're actually going to start digging until they've done it. So in case they do find something, Malta heritage ain't there. You know.
Right. Right. See, on my channel, I've done videos in the past where I explained here in the United States, because people were asking me, well, Jason, all these things you cite are fascinating from all these old books, but how come we're not finding anything anymore? So I had to explain to them that the United States passed legislation in the 1940s, and it was in full effect from 1946 on. It was in full effect in the United States, and all the oil companies, all the coal companies, all the Fortune 500 companies, everybody was put on notice by the U.S. government that if you find anything while you're drilling, excavating, building, that you got to call different department head, whatever. These agents have to come out here, survey the site. If it's declared that this is going to be of national interest, they're going to shut your operations down. So what do you think these Fortune 500 companies started doing?
Cool.
They started paying the individual construction workers to shut the hell up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They were finding stuff everywhere. I mean, there's a real famous story from 2004 when the FBI and the Smithsonian appeared at the exact same time on an archaeological site where these people were excavating in New Mexico humans with long skulls that had 6 fingers on each hand. And the cave was absolutely packed with textiles with thread counts that we can only get by machine today.
Wow.
Talking about textiles that were beautiful, and no one knows the history. We can't learn anything more about it because the archaeologists with the FBI and Smithsonian there, they got strip searched. They had to sign NDAs about the whole incident, and somebody whistle blew. Somebody whistle blew the whole thing, but it doesn't matter because they came in and took everything that they had excavated and found. They took it. It's gone. New Mexico's amazing. New Mexico's got secrets. Yeah, New Mexico's got a lot of anomalies.
Yeah, I'd love to go. I'd love to go over there. I've got so many places to go. So many. It's like it's the whole world. The whole world. Like now I'm aware of it. It's going to be everywhere. Unless we're in like a new city that's just been built. You're not going to find nothing there. But it's literally everywhere.
Yeah, it is crazy. You're familiar with trepanning?
No.
Okay, you probably are. Let me describe it to you. In warfare or accidents, in ancient times, humans were more prone to have accidents from hunting, chasing our food, defending ourselves. Battles were more personal. They weren't impersonal with long-range weapons, ranged weapons. So the brain would hemorrhage in the skull, and ancients learned how not only to trepan, cut squares using obsidian blades, cut squares in the skull to relieve the pressure on the brain, but to even suture it. We have found many skulls in North America that show how smooth the bone is around the trepanning cut marks and the sutures. Yeah. This can only mean that these people.
Oh no, what's happened here? Oh no, don't do this, mate. I'm here, mate. But the computer's gone a bit funky.
Yeah, we hit a low signal period.
Sorry, mate. Sorry, it must be my end.
No, it was on my end. It was on my end. Yeah. If it was on your end, it would have been just you, but it was all of us.
All right.
So yeah, I don't know how much y'all heard, but anyway, the trepanning is evidence of high sophistication, and advanced medical knowledge. The ability to cut into the human skull without killing somebody, to relieve the hemorrhaging and pressure, and then to sew it all up, and the victim can still live for years after that. That's amazing. And it's not an anomaly. What I mean is, it's not the exception. We're now finding out it's the norm, because many ancient skeletons have been excavated that show that this technique was widespread. It was transcultural. It didn't belong to just one people. Skeletons with trepan deals have been found everywhere now. It's crazy.
It makes you wonder what sort of tools they were using, you know, because like for me, I don't want to get a bit gruesome, but for me, you'd have to like cut into it with something. Like, how would you get it so smooth on the edges, you know?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I know obsidian is very sharp. I mean,
Yeah.
no bone can stand up to obsidian, but then again, who knows? I mean, ever since I saw the Mayan friezes that have the guys with backpacks and beards and they're spraying rock, yeah, you know what? All bets are off the table. They probably had an ancient form of Home Depot. We just ain't found one.
Yeah. Well, I always sit there and think, like, when you look at these megalithic structures, and I look at them from like a mechanical point of view, there has to have been, like, you don't just design and build something there and then. Like, you'd have had to like source the materials. You'd have had to plan it. You'd have had to take into consideration the weights of stones and weights of stuff, especially if you're building up floors and things. And it baffles me that, like, there's no knowledge of that. You know, there's nothing at all. There's nothing left. We're just left with the complexes themselves, and we're just left to scratch our heads and ask questions.
Yeah.
But there should be, like, in my opinion, like, there shouldn't be now, but there should have been at one point records of this stuff being made, or how it was made, where they got the materials and all that sort of stuff.
Well, I'm going to tell you now that up until 2239 BC, I don't believe any records were kept on any type of materials that we're familiar with, because it's my opinion that during the Technolithic period, what we call the pre-flood world, what the Bible calls the world before Noah's flood, I believe was technologically advanced, just like our civilization right now. And what that means, when the vapor canopy fell, when the cataclysm occurred, they lost not just their infrastructure, they didn't lose just their architecture in their cities, their means of transportation. They absolutely lost all their knowledge as well, because it was recorded, according to the Sumerians, it was recorded on Mies. In Me, it's a ME. Mies were technological devices that mystified other people who regarded the Sumerians as gods. The Me they were able to move inanimate objects, to call things down from the sky, communicate over long distances. They were able, man, they had cell phones. They had tablets, man. This is why, after the cataclysm, the very first mode of communication was on stone tablets, because it's the only thing they knew. So they did it on stone tablets on cuneiform, but just before the cataclysm, everything was done on tablet-type devices, just like we use today. Remember, Paul, on my channel, I'm always telling people it only takes 200 years to go from horse and buggy to Hadron Collider. So from a full, I'm talking about an absolutely full reset that retards human development all the way back to the caveman type living, like we find with the Magdalenians, like we find with the Aurignacians, the major types of Cro-Magnon. Cro-Magnon, who were very advanced. They weren't primitive. Don't believe the uniformitarian bullshit. Cro-Magnon were a very intelligent and very technologically advanced race of humans that lost everything. They had button-down pants. The women wore tassels. We have found everything in their graves to show thread count, to show that these people were just like us. They just lost everything. So if the electrical grid goes completely down, your tablets no longer work. So if you're going to record information, you better get those kilns burning, and you better collect clay so you can start recording things. It's the only way to do it. You know what I mean?
It's interesting you're talking about the technology from back in the day, because some of these complexes that I've been going in England, there is chase marks on the wall, and because I come from a plumbing background, so I'm always around chase marks. If people don't know what a chase mark is somewhere, it's a line in the wall or a hole in the wall where you can put pipes or cables in to run it to and from places. These are all over the complexes that I go into. And another thing is you'll see like specific shapes on the wall that have to. The only thing that can go there is something has to be fitted in there, and in it will have like 2 nubs on the back of it. And when you look at it, you think only a device can fit inside that. You know, you'd have to put a device in it. And the other thing is, it has to be specific to what the print of the back on the wall is. So, like, what's going on? And there's, especially in the West Midlands, there was 2 sites that were identical, and it seemed like they had like I don't know what it was, but it seemed like a plumbing manifold. Like, it just on the wall there was just like chase marks for a load of pipes coming out of the wall, like a manifold.
Right.
And this was in another site as well, and you think, like, what were they up to? What were they doing? And then I started researching about like electrics and stuff like that, and then I come across a chemical called PDOT. Have you heard of a chemical called PDOT? PEDOT.
No, I haven't heard that.
So basically, it's a chemical that you can lace stones with, right? So you put a primer over the stone, and then you put this chemical called PDOT on it. And what this chemical PDOT does, it allows the stone to act as a capacitor, which allows it to hold a charge or hold some sort of energy. So I believe that these complexes that I'm coming across in England, they're all heavily, they've got so much iron oxide in them. And iron oxide has to be present when you add the PDOT, because it gives you that chemical reaction that allows it to be a capacitor. So I reckon that these, it's going to sound a bit conspiracy, but I reckon these stone complexes that are in England, they had some sort of power running through the walls, and you could put devices into the wall and get power from it. It's a bit of a mad one but if you was to see the images and the stuff that I've collected, you'd be like, wow, man.
Oh no, you're preaching to the choir. I mean, look at the Queen's Chamber in the Great Pyramid. Those insets, you're right. Some type of device was set in there so it would be even with the surrounding stone. I agree 100%.
Yeah, I mean, and again, like, you can't just like put something in the wall. Like, it has to be like the specific size, you know, and even to make it fit snug without it falling out, it has to fit like a glove. So there's a lot of stuff going on, that we're not aware of. And it's fascinating to like just to go and look for it on your own back doorstep, you know.
Okay, I'm going to present just real quick. These are not the greatest examples. I have a lot of examples of artifacts that have shown machines did them. But here's 2, because I don't have my notes with me. I'm going to show 2 right now that are absolute proof that we had engineering and machinery in the ancient world thousands and thousands of years ago. I'm going to show them right now. Let's see here. I'm going to share my screen. I'm still not an expert with this shit, but
no, I'm terrible with it, mate. I'm terrible. Here we go.
All right, I'm gonna share the screen. Let me know if y'all can see this.
Yeah.
Can you see this, Paul?
Yeah, of course.
All right. In 1901, sponge divers off of Crete, they found a shipwreck. It was a Roman shipwreck with a bunch of amphora and Greeks, and they found this little chest and they put it to the side. In 1902, an archaeologist was going through it and he realized this was something unusual. It took another 10 years to clean it, and they found a differential geared mechanism with over 60 gears. And it's not just gears, it's differential gears, which are much harder. The individual gears and pieces are so sophisticated that we haven't seen anything like that until the 16th and 17th century, when we started putting together small watches and like pocket watches and stuff like that. But this is it's all astronomical. It's for predicting astronomical cycles and stuff. But it's called the Antikythera computer, and there's many books and videos about it. Look at this. How many machine parts have you seen that look like this?
I've seen that. And that's in Egypt.
That's in Egypt. It was found in Egypt. That is a machine part, man. Flywheel.
Yeah, I've seen that, mate. I've seen that with my own eyes. When I looked at that, I was going, this is a bit of tech. This is from a bit of tech.
Listen, these are bad examples. I actually have a whole file full of them, but I didn't bring it. As you can see, I'm in my small studio today. But this is but yeah, let me stop sharing the screen. But yeah, there's a bunch of them. You can go to are you familiar with Jonathan Gray? He has a website called beforeus.com. He wrote a fantastic book called Dead Men Don't Tell Tales.
Mate, I've got so much stuff to check out.
Listen, this guy, Jonathan Gray, he spent his life, he's an archaeologist. He spent his life doing what you do. He visits the sites, he writes about them, and he shows on his website all these technologically advanced artifacts that have been found all over the world. He's got a chronology. He and I have a lot of congruence. There's a lot of agreement here. His book is fascinating, called Dead Men Don't Tell Tales. And I'm pretty sure, I think Shiva Shampoo's read the book. He can provide the PDF or the link to it. But yeah, it's something you're going to want to check out, man. It's give you a lot of video material. A lot of stuff, a lot of places you've been. He shows artifacts that have been pulled up from oil wells, all kind. I mean, I'm talking about. Imagine oil companies pulling up figurines from a depth of 600 foot. Imagine in the 1880s and 1890s, coal mining companies having museums set up at the company to show off all the human artifacts they found at 700 foot depth in coal. Yeah, in coal seams. So they don't report it anymore, and coal isn't. We don't have coal furnaces in every home anymore. But this is the way it used to be in the 1850s, all the way to about 1930s. Everybody used coal, and when you had coal delivered to you, it was always in big lumps. These big old lumps of coal, and everybody had a coal hammer and a pan to put the small in their furnace. There are so many old magazines and old periodicals and books that mention all the times that people took coal and broke it open with their hammer to get small pieces to fit in the furnace doors, and a necklace would pop out, a figurine would pop out, old coins would pop out. All of this is coming from 400, 500, and 600 foot depth.
Flip here now, mate. That's incredible, isn't it?
It's amazing, dude. William Corliss talks about it. Forbidden Archaeology. Richard, was it Cremo and Thompson? Forbidden Archaeology is huge book. They talk about it. You'll find many. I'm pretty sure the Archivist has run into some of these. You're familiar with the Archivist?
Yes.
I'm pretty sure because he goes through a lot of these old periodicals, like Scientific American, American Antiquarian, stuff like. These are the magazines that in the 1800s that were talking about these things.
Yeah, I do rate Ben a lot. He comes across some mad articles, that guy. Really good articles.
I don't have anything against him. I just don't like the company he keeps.
Yeah, snap.
Other than that, I don't have a problem with him.
Absolutely snap. I just wanted to show you a couple of bits, Jace. But just to do with the chase marks in the wall. But I'm trying to find the right one. I don't want to show loads of stuff. It was just in particular. Another thing as well, like there's lights. It's like there's lights everywhere as well. I found loads of weird stuff. Yeah, I'll try this one out. I'll present this. Is it right to present something, Jace?
Absolutely.
Okay.
You're probably better at it than I am.
All right, let's have a go. So this is one of the complexes. I'm looking for a specific picture. Oh, is it sharing? Oh, I think you got to add it to the stage, Jace.
Oh, come again? Like that?
Oh, yeah, there we go. So this is one of the complexes. And what's interesting about it is this is a cooker in there as well. So you've got the hinges. This could be, I don't know, 1800s. That's not what we're interested in. But I'm looking for, there's a particular, and another one of these, they're all covered in render as well.
Yeah.
And this is like calcium-based stuff. This is also that we find in Malta. We found this in Malta everywhere. Look at this. So there must have been lights or something that went here, because you can see like there where these little lines where the cables come out. And here, this is a, can you see that? It's hard to...
I can see it, yeah.
Look. But this is one of the things I was on about that goes on the wall. So this is a specific size, and then if you can see on the top left-hand side, something comes down into this corner, into this box. Now, I don't know what it would be, but it must have been some sort of tech. Like what would go there?
Mm-hmm.
You know? And
I agree. There's a lot of these megalithic ancient structures show evidence that some type of engineering or plumbing or tech was installed. There's no doubt. The very first picture you showed was great evidence of that. The very first picture you just showed, where it showed the 4 bolt areas that held the device to the wall.
Yeah, I mean this one.
That's the first thing I noticed is the four. These are mooring. These are anchor areas. These are mooring areas.
Look
Those 4 areas held in place whatever was inset in that wall.
So same with this one, Jason. This one here, like what's that here? Because bang in the center of it, you've got one of these little plugs. You know, so you'd only actually have this cavity here would only have to. It'd have to be the same size of whatever device is going there. It has to be. Like you wouldn't make it bigger to have something sitting there smaller, would you?
Yeah, somebody mentioned the tracks in Malta. But those tracks are uniform. They've been studied meticulously by people even 50, 60, 70 years ago. They're widely published about. Those tracks on Malta are identical to the ones found right here, very close to me in Texas. I'm real close to Austin. Austin has a creek bed that has those same tracks going all over the place. Those same tracks have also been found in Arizona, and somebody else told me that there was somewhere in Europe those tracks could be found, but I haven't found any verification on that.
I found them in England. They're in Germany. They're in Portugal. They're in Spain. They're everywhere. They're absolutely everywhere. I've actually found. Let me try and find some stuff to do with that because I found loads of,
the proof that those were motive, meaning that they were locomotive. They had some other way of moving besides animals. Is that in every place those tracks have been found, they're uniform and they're equal depth, and there's not a single animal track mixed among them.
Yeah, I mean, like I've found some other stuff that's absolutely startling to do with it, though, mate. Really, really mad stuff. Like I found one with cables, with pipes in it still.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to look for it now for you. And another thing that I've noticed about these ones, and by the way, I'm only speaking about Malta when I talk about these. I'm not talking about anywhere else.
All right.
They're coming to and from quarries, and they're going to and from complexes. That's another thing.
Okay.
Yeah, so let me just. I've got.
Well, that's the exact same thing that was found about Easter Island. All the statues on Easter Island that were mined at the top of the volcano and the midway on the volcano. When those statues were found, they were all buried chin deep in the dirt, and they were all found on the road from the top of the quarry all the way to where they were being set up on the coastline. And the reason they were all found that way was they weren't left there on the road. They were all being sent to where they were supposed. The platforms were already made. They just hadn't been sent to the platforms. The cataclysm happened in the middle of the construction project. It was abandoned.
I'll go get this one up. Malta, here we go. I swear I had a whole file just dedicated for the ruts. But yeah, I mean, I was like this here. This is right. This is one of them. Do I need to present that? Don't I? Share that. So this is one of the ruts that I found outside a complex. There's a complex called Selene Catacombs, and they're always called catacombs. I think you might need to share it, Jace. Here we go. So this is one of the ruts, and it goes down into a single one, and you can see that a plate actually sits over the top of it. This is because this arrow is about to go into the accommodation. Let me show you. So these are the ruts in Malta. They're not all uniform, and not all of them match up, and a lot of them are singular as well. The only reason I can say that is because I spent a long time there studying these, and you can see here, look, you've got little branches coming off of them. In Malta, I believe these are for pipe work. What's happened?
Okay.
So this is one of the complexes. So this is another one. You can see the different levels here. So this is actually coming from a well on Gozo. This is on an island off of Malta in Gozo. And another thing about these, they're all at an angle. None of them are dead straight. So just behind here is a well, a live well, and there's also a major reservoir just a little bit further up the road. But if you can come to it, you can see that there's another little lip that sits in there. And this is another completely different size to this one. And on this side, the gradient's different. As you can see, they're going downhill a bit more steeper. So in my opinion, these ones here were for pipes, and especially because they're coming from the well as well. I'm trying to find a specific image because you've got the cable, the pipes still in the tracks. I'm trying to find that one here. But again,
that stuff's so interesting.
I'm only talking, by the way, about Malta. I'm not talking about any other cart ruts, just in case anyone says that I'm talking about them.
Yeah,
right.
This whole thing's crazy.
Right, again, I think you might have to share this one, Jace, as well. Yeah, here we go. So again, these are what you call cart ruts, but they're not actually cart ruts. These are for the cables or pipes, right? And they're actually coming from an energy center, which is behind this wall. I think here you'll see the pipe in a minute. Here's one of the pipes in the chase mark. You can see this is meant to be the ruts, or what they call the ruts.
Yeah.
Here they are again. What's that? Oh, this is me going off track in one of the complexes. But yeah. So it's like that. And this is what we found. We found in Malta that they like to bury the cables and pipes. Just
wow.
Like yeah. So again, this would be called a cart rut, really. These would be called cart ruts, but I'm trying to find another. Look, are these images sharing?
Yeah, we can see them all.
All right, excellent. Because this is actually in an what they call a catacomb, and what they've done in here, Jason, is they've actually smeared another material over the limestone. It's almost like a coquina sort of material, like a lime or a calcium-based material. But when I was in these places, I have to go off track. I have to go off the beaten path. And it turns out that this is it was just blocked up in every angle. Look, there's holes through walls. You can see like blocked up walls. This is another floor. I'm poking the camera up, like to get in a picture. There's a window up there. You've got cables running through. You've got two stories here being exposed. You've got one up here, one down here, or up here. You've got a live well inside a catacomb that's being used still. You've got like the pump with the cables there and a pipe, which is bonkers. I don't know why you'd have a well inside a catacomb. It wouldn't make sense, but it makes sense to have a well inside a complex, a living complex, wouldn't it?
Yeah, hell yeah.
So this is another part of the complex, the same one, but it's meant to be a catacomb, but you're not allowed to, obviously I've gone off the beaten path here. I've gone under the barrier. You can see that it's been blocked up and it looks like a front room. This is actually a humongous hinge. The hinge would have gone here, this one.
Right.
This is where they've chopped the complex down and they've built the blockwork on top. This is another one of them ones here. These ones have been taken out. It looks like a cable could have gone down there. This is a chase mark again. Ooh. But yeah, I should have got some stuff organised, really. But yeah,
no, that's okay. It's all right. It's the Great Pyramid. Also, one of my videos, I show the front entrance of the Great Pyramid, photographs taken over 100-year period, and you can see it's amazing. These blocks are 5 tons. Somebody's gone into great care to move blocks out of the way, then concrete a whole area, then put the blocks back, make them look natural in the area to block that original entrance to the Great Pyramid. It's crazy, man.
Well, this is one of the things I did notice in Egypt, mate, and it was very disappointing. It was like everything seems to have been touched up, shall we say, and moved around. That's what it was like. It was like I was expecting to go there and see, like you see, when you're being programmed at school and you've got the image of Egypt and you want to go and see that. It was far from it. It was far from it. Yeah, it was just everything was jumbled up. Everything had been touched up, and it seemed like some stuff was only a couple of 100 years old as well. That's another interesting thing.
Well, you notice that at the Osirion in Abydos, at the Osirion, they've got that plaster covering up most of those older hieroglyphics. And but that one section where the plaster was removed, you can see that thing that looks like a tank, a hover tank, a helicopter, and one looks like a jet aircraft. Looks like machines, and yet next to those are anatomically perfect bees, praying mantis. So it's like the artist knew exactly what things looked like, was supposed to look like. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's because somebody added all that plaster. I want to know what's underneath the rest of that plaster. They won't let you take it down. You know what I mean? But that plaster's covering up the rest of those Egyptian hieroglyphs.
Yeah, it's bonkers, mate. I actually went to another place in the Valley of the Kings called the Valley of the Monkeys. I don't know if you've heard of that one. Have you heard of that one?
I haven't heard of that one.
It's a recently renovated tomb, and it's called the Valley of the Monkeys. It is quite interesting. I'll see if I've got you have to go off the beaten path. You have to get a taxi down there. You know, it's like they try and stop you going down there. They say, look, you can only go down there if you've got a decent driver and you've got enough water and blah, blah. They put fear in you. They don't want you going down there. But when you get down there, it is actually really incredible. I have a theory about the whole of that, the Valley of the Kings. It seems like that was a humongous complex, or something was going on around there, and it's just been absolutely decimated. Because when you drive towards there, you can actually see parts of a complex coming out of the sand. It's madness. And they say that there's still apparently thousands of tombs to be excavated. So,
well, there would have to be, because the pyramids are actually more than 400 miles to the north. All the pyramids are way in northern Egypt, by the end of the delta in the Saqqara, Memphis area, Cairo area. There are no pyramids down there in all those cities, and no Egyptian mummies have ever been found inside of the pyramids in northern Egypt. But way down here in southern Egypt, where Thebes is, and Karnak, and Edfu, and Dendera, and the Valley of the Kings, I mean, the Valley of the Kings would have to have more tombs. That's where they buried them.
Yeah, it's a fascinating place. It really is. And what's weird about it is it's in like 3 levels. You can see there's like 3 tiers there, and on each tier there's rubble, you know, and it's like, clearly something's happened. The whole place has just been absolutely decimated. But when you go into the tombs, like I reckon it goes on a lot further, and you go into like a much of a larger complex. But we only get given a crumb. I call them crumbs. So we go down the stairs, and you can go into a room, and then you just look at the hieroglyphs, you look at the tomb, and that's it. But in my opinion, they go on a lot more, and they go further down more.
Yeah, it's crazy.
You know, and this is something that baffles me as well, Jason. Look, right. So this is when I say some stuff seems very new, and you think, how is this possible? So this is in Malta. Oh, where's it gone? I think you might have to share it, Jay. That's a screen. Right, yeah. So this is in Malta. This is one of the complexes made of limestone. I went inside this. It gives you an idea of how big these complexes are. So I'm in the middle of Valletta and Floriana. So behind me is Valletta, and the whole city is built on top of that complex, and the whole town is built on top of this complex. But what's interesting is, look how old this stone looks and weathered, right? Look at the service marks coming down the wall. Can you see it? They've been filled in.
Yeah, hell yeah, I can see it.
And down here, you got it here. So these ain't actual tunnels. These are for the pipe work to come in, by the way. These ones are the tunnels. These are big ones. I've done a video inside that. But this is me in the same spot. So you can clearly see that the sheer size of them. But
I wonder if that was sanitation.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Do you mean like wastewater and things like that?
Yeah.
100%, Jason. That's where I come in, and that's how I noticed it, because I'm a plumber. And I noticed all the pipe work, and I know how pipe work has to sit to make water run away. And when I looked at it, I was going, this is flipping plumbing. This is all for plumbing. But this is in the same area. But look how neat this looks. This looks like this was done, 50 years ago?
Look at the stain. Look at the stains on the left, though. It's like fluid used to go through here.
Oh. It's bonkers, mate. It's absolutely bonkers. But look at this, the outside exterior stone to this
Yeah.
part here.
Yeah.
You know, like this seems like this was done very recent.
It does look recent.
But
It
it's as old as this though, Jace.
looks like stucco.
Yeah, it's bonkers. It's really bonkers. Let me just. So I've got weird photos. Oh, look, there's another door hinge. Oh, what's this one?
Do with this place, man. This is real history.
Wow.
Right, this, mate. This is what I got in trouble for in Malta. This is why I had. That's why I had to go, really, because of this. Here, you're not allowed to go to at all. This is out of bounds. When I went in here and I showed my Maltese friends this, they couldn't believe it. The government have actually spent money and time keeping people out of this area. And this is actually a real stone complex that is phenomenal. I won't play the whole thing. I'll just give you a little glimpse of what it is.
Do you know what made me laugh the other day?
I'll turn the volume down.
I was walking through.
How do I turn the volume down?
Service comes straight.
Boom. There we go. Look, here we go. Another service coming in. Boom.
Yeah.
This is just. You can see these stone stairs coming down. This is a very common thing we see everywhere, especially in the old stone worlds, with these stairs coming down from the corners. Look. There's one of them that I poked my head through and it's completely rendered. Like it was like still being used.
Yeah, no doubt. Damn, that place is huge.
Look at it. Wouldn't you love to see this place when it was in its prime?
Yes, I was walking through Valletta the other day and I just see like I was just filming some GOP, some building made out of GOP.
Look at it.
Bang in the middle of the high street, which just looked completely out of place. But then I'm looking at about 20 people standing around a statue that's 15 years old, all taking photos, and I thought, wow, you guys have got this all completely wrong. You don't even know what's going on, really, do you? Like you're sitting there taking pictures of a statue that's like.
This is like something I'd expect to find in Libya or Syria or somewhere like that.
Yeah.
I mean, you can actually see the window frame that went there. Can you see that?
Yeah, you can see it. Hell yeah, it's inset.
Yeah.
Yeah, some sort of window frame of service went down the wall.
Oh, look.
I'd like to go in there next time. You can see a door frame on the wall as well.
That's amazing, man.
Mate, it's bonkers.
Another time. But don't worry, I've got so much footage of inside all of this complex. I just didn't enter that side.
Look at this render as well, Jason. They leave bits of render on here. So like I say, we're left with the core blockwork.
Yeah.
These places were decorated. They never looked like this. They would have been.
No, they didn't. No, you see the decoration would have hid those pipes and those chases and stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. But this is mental. Look at it.
Yeah, the facade has been removed. Just like the Great Pyramid. The facade is completely removed.
Imagine what this place looked like when it was in its prime.
That's amazing.
Mate, I feel blessed that I've been here, you know.
That sort of stuff, you know.
Hell yeah. They probably got their security tight now that you did that.
Yeah. I mean, look at this. Like, what is this from? Like, this is like out of a movie.
I'm so happy that I can show you guys this as well. I mean, look at that. Look at this. Like dual stairs coming down from the left and the right from above. And I don't know what's going on in here, but they really blocked this one up in here. Proper blocked this one up. You can see nothing. Couldn't see not one single thing in here. Another thing I noticed is they had some shafts, but in the shafts they had, I think they might have been collected right here, but they've been blocked up. There was 3 of them. So there might have been wells, there might have been shafts, but wherever they are, they've been blocked up now. Everything down here is fucked up.
Sorry,
Listen,
Jace.
do you get the sense when you were in there, from what I'm looking at, this really reminds me that if they drained Vienna out,
Yep.
this is what I would be walking through. This should have been full of water, and boats would have been going up to these staircases and these wharfs and all this stuff. Does it look like this was underwater at one time?
Nah, this is the thing. I initially thought that when I first went there, but the angle of all this, and there's so many entrances. This is just above ground. Underneath here is a whole complex. So if there was water inside here, that complex would be completely.
Okay, I get it. Okay, I get it. So you think this is ground level? It wasn't deeper than this.
Yeah. It's right. It's exactly right.
Okay, cool. I got it.
But again, Jay, it's only my opinion, though, mate. It's only my opinion.
Yeah, it's just crazy, man. It's just the whole thing is just you don't see any of the. I've never seen any of this in any of these encyclopedias or when you look up megalithic architecture on Malta. They want to show you just the 2-3 core places like Gozo, the Hyphagium, the Temple of Gigantia. They only show you 3 or 4 places.
Exactly, mate. And that's why when we said at the start of the video, he was like, have you been to the Hyphagium? I was like, man, like I've had a free pass to go everywhere. Like I've made the most of it. So I was going around places like this, you know. I should have gone to the Hyphagium, but it's more interesting discovering stuff for yourself, you know.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
This structure.
But look, you've got the stairs that come down.
Stairs going down straight into the.
Why is that thing going there?
Straight into. Look at that. Look.
This place doesn't look like it was. Not only is it just old, it looks like it was destroyed.
Yeah. Oh, mate, 100%. I mean, if you look at World War II, you can actually look. So Malta was only in the war for 2 years. I don't know if you know about that. And apparently all of Valletta was dug out 3 months before World War II, which is a bit strange.
Yeah.
But what they did was they just targeted certain areas in Malta. So they targeted Valletta, they targeted Manuel Island, where we are now, and they targeted a place called the Three Cities. Now, what's significant about them places that I've just mentioned is that they are all geopolymer, humongous macro star cities, humongous, and that's what got that's what they targeted. So I do have another image that's very, very good because it shows you the actual what I'm trying to say. Let me just get it for you. It's a map and it shows you what they used to look like to what it looks like now. And here we go, the deterioration. Right. So present this. So this is the image, Jace. Oh, you might have to share that one. Here we go. So this here, right on the left-hand side, is the image of 1694. And you can see, you remember I showed you that video, a picture a minute ago, and I was standing between them 2 megalithic structures. This was where I was standing. So this is one structure here, and this is the other structure. Yeah. So remember I was going, it's like 9 stories. All of this is what got targeted in World War II. All of this. So they just spent 2 years. This is the most heavily bombed place in the world, wasn't it? Just this particular area. But if you look on the right-hand side, I've done a Google Earth, and I tried to get it so it's symmetrical, like height-wise. And you can actually see like how much has gone in a few hundred years.
That's crazy.
You can hardly see any fortification whatsoever. Now, the video I just showed you was here. So we was just walking around here. This actual where the tips of my fingers are, we was walking here. Yeah, it's completely gone. So 300 years ago, this was established. This would have been not established. Probably at the end of its days, but it would have had its prime. Now there's nothing of history at all about it. You know, that they're dismissing it. This is it again. I used to live here, by the way. I used to live in this block here. These blocks are still here, even though it's 1694. These blocks are still here. So I used to live. I used to live in that block, mate. So that's how I know this area like the back of my hand. Oh look, some more cart ruts. Yeah. So this is in a complex as well, Jace. This is meant to be in a catacombs, but it looks like a front room. It's got a downstairs to here. Look, like basically, you know, when you go into like a tourist attraction, you've got the barriers and it says "Don't go here." I had to go in there. You know, I'm like, I felt like I was on a mission. So I'd go under the barrier and I'd start going through these complexes, and this is the stuff I'd come across. I mean, look at this little box hole up here. What would go up here? What would you put in there? A light? I don't know. I don't know. It's just strange. Plus, you've got a shelf that would go here. You've got the downstairs here. It's very bizarre. I mean, again, you've got this weird chase mark up here. That's not the best image because I was a bit scared when I took this photo.
Wow, that's amazing, dude. It really is.
Yeah. I mean, look, blocked up as well. What's that? Oh, that's when I was in Egypt.
Yeah, that place was already ancient during the Crusades when the Christian Crusaders used Malta as a landing base.
Yes. I don't know if you know about the iron that I found in Malta as well, Jason. Do you know about that?
The iron?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, this is a tin of worms, my friend. This is going to knock your socks off. I'm telling you now. So if you didn't believe me or that this stuff had been man-made, let me show you this. Because I found iron sheeting that would contain in the stone as they're casting it. So let me just... So in Malta. Boom, boom, boom.
I know there's a place in, I think it's India or Pakistan, where there's an iron pillar that they've done chemical test on and found out it has almost zero carbon, and they have no idea how the hell that was even smelted. They don't even know how they made it.
Yeah, God. Yeah, I think you might need. I think it comes up itself actually. Is it sharing? Oh,
It will. Hold on.
Oh, there we go. Right. So this is. Make sure she's sharing. Yeah. So this is part of the complex, and you can see that this part must have been something to do with energy, I believe. You've got this humongous chase mark down here, and you can even see where like something was holding in something because you've got these holes, which tells me like maybe a plug and a bracket would be holding in a pipe or a cable. But what happens is it comes in here. It goes into this room, this hole up here. It goes into that room, and this must be like a maintenance room, I guess. And then it comes out here, or it could be the other way around. It goes in and then comes out that way. But that's not what I'm showing you. I'm going to show you the iron that I found here. So this is the iron that I found. And in my opinion, it shows that this stone has been cast in sections. Now, this is part of the coastline outside Valletta. And I'm going to be showing you megalithic blockwork that is separated by iron sheeting.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. I'll just hide that and play this. So look at this. So the only reason it's like this now is because this has been damaged and bombed and then weathered. So it's all uneven. But at one point, it would have been flush. So you can see down... Oh, wait a minute. Iron on the stone. And they even put concrete on it to try and hide it, which is interesting.
Wow.
Someone went out of their way to hide the iron by putting concrete up it.
It's amazing.
One humongous megalithic block. This was made of loads of blocks. Look at it. Now, the only reason we can see this iron there is because the block where I'm standing has obviously fallen off or broken away, which has exposed the joint. And that's why we can see the iron that's been left there. Look at that.
That's amazing.
But when you see the size of these blocks, mate, you can be like, wow. Look. And it's going behind that part, the iron. So this has just been cast directly on top of each other. That's all it is. Again, you've got a service mark that runs through. This is a very strange one. So you had a sliver. There was a sliver of stone, and either side of the stone was iron, which was very bizarre. Look at it, like that sliver. Video will show you.
Well, you know that iron is going to conduct that electricity.
Yeah, mate, when I mentioned that, do you know how many people blew me up saying about this? And then I come to the conclusion, because I just want to add now, Jason, in Malta, you've got the salt pans as well, right? And obviously you can harness the energy inside salts. So I want to know, and obviously there must be something going on with energy and the old world in Malta, because you've got all the salt pans and all the stone has got iron running through all of it. So I'd like to know, was it an ancient battery or something, or was it, what was going on?
Well, I don't know, but a lot of the older megalithic structures use the what's it called? Piezoelectric?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's found all throughout Ecuador, all throughout the entire Urubamba Valley, all the megalithic sites of the Urubamba Valley in South America, from Pumapuca, Cuzco, Tiahuanaco, Machu Picchu, all these, but also in Ecuador, there's a lot of this. And then the Olmec sites where you have the giant spheres. And then a later culture came in and took some of those spheres and carved faces and heads out of them. But originally it was all giant spheres, and they would put off a soft green or soft blue light right before earthquakes happened. So these were like there's a lot of good research about it in the archaeological literature, but it's evidence that this rock was used because of its crystalline content, and right before seismic activity actually is felt, the energy's already there. The electrical energy's already in the earth, and it's moving rapidly. And these rocks pick it up, and it channels through the perfect spheres of these giant rock spheres in Central America and in South America, and then the rock glows. So the people have a few minutes of preparation when they start seeing colors come off these rocks to get out of all these stone structures before the earthquakes happen.
A bit like a weather warning, really.
Pretty much.
Man, that's incredible, mate. That's incredible. This is another bit of iron poking out of this sandstone. Like, look at that. This was a sheet. You can see that what they've done is they've smeared the stone over towards it. That's what they do. Look at it. And these are megalithic shapes that are made by squares and triangles. That's why they're going back at these angles. Look at that. Iron, going behind this stone. Look at it. It's phenomenal. Look, what's this one? Oh, I think I'm pointing out. Oh, the joint mark. You can see like the stone's been cast up next to it. By the way, I just want to stress, you only find the iron on the larger things. And my theory for that is because obviously you need some sort of strong, durable material to hold in the weight of the stone.
Yeah.
But look, this is one joint.
That's amazing.
I'm trying to get to the actual iron parts. I'll get rid of that.
It blows the mind how much of that has been lost underwater.
It's bonkers, mate. It really is bonkers. Trying to find. I mean, look at this. Now, I'm not saying this stuff's old, but it's just bizarre. Right, that's not what I was looking for. Here we go. Back to the iron. So this is like the iron that's in place. Look at this. And this was nothing. This was not even old. The only reason I took this photo is because there was an iron box that had been embedded inside the stone, and it was exactly the same as this. So that's why I took the photo. So this was just identical to this. You know, it was just proving what I was saying. And the interesting thing is, what I thought was a real Mickey take. You've got these massive iron sheeting dotted around all around Malta. Now, I'm saying that the stuff was cast in this iron sheeting in shapes of squares and triangles. And then when I said that, the next day I walked through and noticed that, and I thought, wow, man! Like, why would you? What is that doing? You know, I think they're just rubbing it in your face.
Yeah.
You've got iron poking through this joint here. You can see it again.
That is crazy.
This was very bizarre. This was like, I don't know what was going on with this. This was like another material underneath the limestone. Very bizarre. But the reason I point this stuff out is to show you that it's man-made. Because there's no other way you'd be able to get that material behind it. Again, you've got this right angle created by this iron sheeting that's been left in place. You've got a 45-degree angle down to another 45. And you can see that it gets smeared up. Well, not smeared up. That's how it's deteriorated. But there's no other excuse, mate. Why would there be iron inside the sheeting? You know? Why would there be iron inside the stone? Look at this. Like this. What's happened here? Oh. It's gone a bit funky.
Well, I know this. In South America, they used a compound of silver that was mixed with iron, and what they did is they cut a T-bar out of one megalith and a T-bar out of another megalith, and when those two megaliths were set side by side, they poured in the liquid silver iron to fill that T, so those boulders could not be pulled apart. The metal held them together.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
Yes.
It was a T section in each one connected by a crossover, and this was found. And when the conquistadors came, they destroyed a bunch of megalithic ruins because they figured out where the T-bars were set in place, and they pulled all that and melted it down to get the pure silver out.
Wow, that's interesting, because there's an island off of England called Portland, and it's got megalithic stones with exactly what you just said, but all the metal's missing out of it, mate.
Yeah, see that they did that. That was the Heliolithic Empire. They were the ones that did that. They were transoceanic, and I've documented a lot about the Heliolithic Maritime Empire. And one of their chief building techniques to make their stuff earthquake proof was to pour liquid metal into those molds when they put those boulders together.
That's bonkers. I've got another one in England just to show you the similarities, because what I want to say about this is there was iron running through this place in England as well, acting like a lintel. So let me show you. And again, this just completely proves to people that it has to be man-made, because you're not going to get. I didn't measure it, but I did a guesstimate. It's about 3/4 of an inch thick, this iron. Why is it not sharing? Come on, Gil. Here we go. Just waiting for it to come up.
There it is.
Here she is. So this is part of one of the complexes in the United Kingdom, and it's made out of red sandstone. This sandstone.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. But when I was look at the render on the wall. This is a bit of render. But this is the point. This is the main point. You've got this iron sheet running right through the center. Well, not the center.
Oh, that's amazing.
I know, and you get closer, you can really see the depth. Like it's literally about 3/4 of an inch thick. Look at that. Now, how are people like? What are you saying about that? You know, Look, this is it here. This is the iron sheet here running there. That's it there. And there's another one running here. Phenomenal, right?
Man, I would love to know what's all underground around there as well.
Well, this is quite high above sea level at the minute, and this is one of the main things that I have to look at is the elevation. And you're right, what is going on underneath? Because there is a lot of space underneath this. Some places we can't get underground, obviously, but some places you can. This is the tip of a complex that's been poking out the ground. They've put loads of... Look at this. This stone is just flapping over this stone here. Look at it.
So have you seen any of this anywhere else?
Yes.
Aside from Malta?
Yes. England. This is in England, this stuff.
Okay.
This is in England. So I found it in England and in Malta so far. Identical. The only difference is in England they're using sandstone and in Malta it's limestone. That's the only difference. I find the same chase marks. I found swinging stone doors. I found iron everywhere. You know, so I'm building up a good case now. A very good case.
That's amazing, man. It's really amazing. It's shocks me that in all my reading and all my stuff, I had not seen this nor come across material like this. This is interesting. Yeah. I mean, I have seen similar in other places, but not. I thought I knew all the ancient sites on Malta. I guess I didn't.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. We're guided towards most of the sites, but in my opinion, the real sites are not spoken about.
Right,
not spoken about. Not the real sites. I mean, the ones that they're really trying to cover up. You know?
That's amazing, dude.
But this
Paul,
here is what?
We're gonna have to cut this short because well, it's not short. It's already been 2 hours and 9 minutes. I'd like to have you back on the show soon, but right now, as you notice, Dawn's not been in the chat and she has not been feeling well, and I need to check on that, man.
No worries, mate. No worries. That's very good with me. It's been an honor, Jason. Thank you very much.
This has been enlightening. I'm definitely going to look into this. You got me wanting to go back into all my Malta notes, and I have a lot. But yeah, this is very interesting. You guys, my moderators have done a really good job posting your links, and I appreciate that. And as this outro runs, I'd appreciate if you post his links one more time. You guys, moderators, you've done a fantastic job. I appreciate you guys for all your participation. If there's anything you want to close with, Paul, this is a good time to do it.
No, guys, I just want to say thank you for being here and thank you for showing me some love. It's been a pleasure to show you guys what I've been finding. And Jace, it's been a pleasure for you to have me on your show, mate. It's honestly to meet you. I'm looking forward to doing something like that again. And what I
think our next show, I think Martin wanted to join us.
That is exactly what I was going to say. That's exactly what I was going to say. So that'd be brilliant if we can converse behind the scenes and get something sorted out. Man, that'd be amazing.
Hell yeah! All right, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and close out, and I appreciate you guys joining me. You guys know, gonna hit that intro, and I'll see you later, Paul. I'll email you a little bit later.
God bless, mate. Ta-das.
All right.